Barbara with us. We got five of us all together here to pay homage to the almighty Black Sabbath,
Yes. Yes,
the
indeed.
pioneers. We go now. Some say that heavy metal originally started with bands like Blue Cheer, Steppenwolf, but Black Sabbath definitely put the metal to the took the pedal to the metal. What do you think about it there? Because their first record all the way up to their last album 13 in 2013, was that they're considered one of the pioneers of the dark goth rock, the doom metal, or they basically along with the Doors are considered the pioneers of goth rock when you think about it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that even though we're on the prog rock section here, there were lots of elements of prog in their earlier stuff there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, especially with the first album and the second record, Paranoid.
Well, we're gonna get to that, but remind me. I do want to bring up. Obviously, we can't forget about the Dio years as well, which are
Oh
my
yeah,
favorite.
We'll go through that.
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to the Dio years, the album they did with Ian Gillan, the Tony Martin
Can I
years.
give you a hot? Can I give you a hot take real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I like the Dio stuff better than the Ozzy stuff.
Yeah,
More
that's
harder.
true.
It's more. It
Lot
really
of-
is more harder.
That's true. Yeah, a lot. The Sabbath at that time had really gotten a lot more heavier with their
Right.
sound and their style of songwriting. There, when you think about it, Bored Again with Ian Gillan was a lot more heavier, and the stuff they did with
Hey, what's
Fuck!
that?
Come on, man.
Sorry,
Right?
that's my phone.
oh okay, playing a little bit of Ozzy there. That's the ringtone there. Nice.
Yeah. See you on the other side.
Yeah, good song there. Which is a good song, no doubt about it. There.
Okay. Well, we'll start the discussion with their first album released in 1970.
All right, titled Black Sabbath.
Right.
And again, we all know the iconic woman on the front of that cover. That was the photo was taken at it was at a watermill in Oxfordshire, England, and the lady in front of on the front is standing in front of it with the black cloak on it, the black robe on it. Her name is Louisa Livingstone. She was 19 years old at that time. People have been wondering for years who that woman was. They only knew her as just Louise. There was no detail until till it was revealed not too long ago. At the same time, this album reached its 50th anniversary. So it was revealed that she also gave details behind the cover shoot behind that particular photo session. It was extremely cold at that location. She was nude underneath that cloak there, so they did a little bit of provocative poses, but none of them seemed to suit the what they was looking for. So they stuck with the one image that is still iconic to this very day. And by the
And
way,
I
that
think that place is still up, isn't it?
it
The
is
building?
still up there. Yes, it's
Yeah.
still located there, and no doubt all the Sabbath fans out there flock to that particular place. They'll probably have their pictures taken there at that particular spot. No doubt how many women with dark hair started showing up wearing black cloaks.
Fucking crazy.
It is, yeah. And the image of the way the image was like, it was like, wow, this is most interesting. Everything was kind of dark. The sky was kind of the dark pinkish in a way. Almost, must have been around the fall time, if I'm correct there.
Likely since the album was released in February.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And also keep in mind that even though it was not released here in the States, the UK version featured a satanic cross in the gatefold with a quote about everything being dead, birds with dead wings, and everything else, you know, and a woman standing alone in the figure there. I gotta find it somehow and read the whole exact speech there. But
Try
that's
Wikipedia.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm going to do there in a couple of minutes there. But apparently, the story was it was not the band's idea to have that cross in that in the gatefold. In fact, Geezer Butler was extremely shocked when he when he saw that there. Apparently, with hours not too long before they recorded their first album, which by the way was done within 24 hours with a couple of dubs over here and there. It was virtually recorded live, and it had basically a lot of road tested material that they had.
Right.
That they had done. No.
And of course, we
Now,
know the lineup was Yami, Butler, Ward, and Ozzy, of course.
Osborne, yes, absolutely. Now, believe me, now this most of the song Black Sabbath, believe it or not, was based on a paranormal experience that Geezer Butler had experienced at the place he was living at that time. Apparently, the story was Ozzy had somehow gotten the book of dark magic spells that apparently he had stolen somewhere. He gave it to Butler. Butler put it in his cupboard of his place up there. So he was sleeping at one night in his bed, and all of a sudden he wakes up, and there's this dark figure right by his bed. He was scared shitless. He ran to the cupboard to throw away that book, and it was somehow disappeared.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it was, and so that's he vowed. Now, Butler, by the way, was raised Catholic, so obviously you could see why he'll be freaking out the way he was, and to see that satanic image on the cover in gatefold of their first album, there, you can imagine how much shock he was in, because apparently the Sabbath was not supposed to be a satanic band at all. They got the name from a 1963 Boris Karloff movie, which I remember seeing on syndication TV one time on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Now, but that would, however, the name, the image, and the dark tones of that first album would kind of like give gateway to those satanic ministers of Satan rumors that the band had to deal with for many years.
Right.
In fact, Warner Brothers Records, our U.S. label, held a record release party for the album, and the master of ceremonies would happen to be Anton LaVey from the Church of Satan. Wouldn't you believe it? Yeah. And now it is soon. Now, of course, a year later with the second album, Paranoid, I think we have YRMA talked about this. A young nurse apparently.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Quickly on the satanic thing. It's funny how back then that was sorry, choking on a fly.
Oh.
Not many of us eat flies.
Back then, Satanism was bad and everything. Right now, it's like accepted pretty much. Now it's like, I mean, just little things like, even Halloween, for example, that could be, considered a satanic type deal. But just even in the music, not music now, like just
Devil
movies,
horns.
Yeah, just online, TV
vampires,
shows.
Yeah.
It's kind of accepted now,
When you think about it, it kind of makes a lot of sense, because since we see everybody, including techno artists, the movie actors, the pop singers doing the devil horn sign, all the time, and it's like, it's like a constant
a lot of people
thing.
do it and they have no idea what they're doing.
Exactly, they're doing it because it's a trend that shows you how foolish most of these people are.
Right.
And the thing is, it's just, the funny thing that I always bugged me is that and I discussed this with one woman that was involved in around 2002, when the Osbournes TV show was a big hit on MTV. All these people now are jumping on the bandwagon because the Osbournes are a big hit. At one point, some top 40 station was having a little contest saying, what did Ozzy just say at the moment? Can you figure out? And you win the tickets to the Backstreet Boys' next performance.
Oh boy!
That's how basic it was.
The earliest. Real quick to speak on that part. Like my earliest memory, because you're talking about like people don't know nothing about Sabbath and all that,
Yeah, yeah.
because the show is popular. My earliest memory is the cover of, in CD. I think came out like in '91 or is it No More Tears?
No More Tears by Ozzy. His one of his solo records. Yes.
Yeah. Who was on the cover of that? Was that Randy Rhoads or
No, that
was
was
supposed to
Ozzy.
be?
That's Ozzy himself.
My
Really
first
didn't look
memory of
like him.
Sabbath is this album, because I was around in 1970.
Yeah, yeah. This was actually the first album Sabbath I ever heard. Yeah, but I borrowed the cassette from the neighbor. I listened to it. It was on a rainy ass day, and I was amazed by the sound, the atmosphere. At one point, I'd mentioned this I think to you, Arknolia, a few times. I tried to. I went to our old garage. Yeah, had an amplifier along with it. It was sitting on one of the stools there, on one of the benches there. I was trying to duplicate the chords, the sound of that album, but no can do. And not much. And stupid me. I don't know what I was thinking at that time.
Did you hear me? Did you hear my promo video? I did.
Yes, I
The
did.
Iron
I
Man.
did
It's
it.
pretty good, right?
Absolutely. I good. I like that. Definitely gotta.
I did what Art said. I dropped the both E strings to the D, more crunchier, more
Nice.
hard
Yeah.
sound.
All right. I like that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty absolutely cool, man. Yeah. By the way, and I tried to duplicate that sound, but sadly it didn't work out mainly because I don't know. I just didn't have the atmosphere. But on a rainy, cloudy day, that atmosphere of that album goes perfectly well. Needless to say,
Yeah.
there.
Of course, this album did have Black Sabbath,
The song there.
The Wizard.
Yeah, which, by the way, was inspired by that one wizard from the Lord of the Rings story there.
Yeah. And then that one of their close to Prog things, Wasp Behind the Wall of Sleep, basically an NTB.
Yeah, I'm doing NIB, I mean.
Yeah,
Which
well, I'm
meant
sorry. Yeah.
which, yeah, that's okay. Which often people say, now, the Sabs claim it was, the name came from the nib beard that Bill Ward had sporting at that time, but a lot of people are speculating that it meant nativity in black. That song basically is, what if Satan were to roam around this planet and fall in love with a human woman? You'll pretty much get the idea behind the song right there.
Well, supposedly that happened in ancient days with Satan and his fallen angels roaming the
I
earth,
know.
and that's where a lot of the mythology comes from. Actually,
Yeah.
is
And
that
apparently
time.
apparently at the also keep in mind that apparently the idea to call the name Black Sabbath from their previous name Earth, which you already recorded a few demos prior to this. Tony Iommi saw the movie posters from the theater across the street, and he figured, if people pay good money to see horror movies and get scared, why don't we come up with an idea of performing scary music of our own?
Yeah.
And they had lots to talk about that was deemed scary. Their environment. They grew up in Birmingham, England, the poorest to the poor. Osborne himself, grew up in a very dirt poor environment where apparently, one time for Christmas, he received a dirty sock with an orange and a couple of knickknacks in it. And that was it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Apparently there was hardly anything in there. I mean, there was lots of violence. There was lots of pollution. I mean, Ozzy and Tony were in separate gangs, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And they would beat each other up in high school when you think about it there. In fact, it was Bill Ward that decided, hey, I know an Ozzy. We could, get him in the band here. And Tony was like, no, I used to beat up an Ozzy, man. No, come on, let's do it, man. Let's do it, mate. And therefore, they connected. And they would make great albums together in the future there, including Paranoid, Massive Reality.
Well, we'll get to those.
Absolutely there. Of course,
Well, one thing on this first album that was interesting, is there was a song that didn't make the cut on the first album called
Yeah,
Evil Woman.
Yeah, which was performed by the group, which by the way was
Crow.
performed by the band Crow for originally, and Sabbath decided to do their cover version and release it on the UK version there.
Right.
And it was in its place here in the US. It was a new track called "Wicked World." Now, "Wicked World" would be performed occasionally a couple times there, including the Live at Last album, which was recorded in 1974, 75 there, if I'm reckoning. But where did we sort of start there? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Sabbath related after "Wicked World" or "Wicked Woman" or "Evil Woman," I'm getting tongue-tied. I got to slow down, dude. They would go into their other prog stage on that album.
Right.
A Bit of Finger, which was that instrumental, Sleeping Village, and then Warning, which was an Ainsley Dunbar's Retribution cover. And I guess, and from what I understand, it never got credited who did that song first. It just said all songs written by Iommi, Butler, Ward, and Osborne there.
Yeah, which actually the mastermind behind a lot of them was Ward.
Absolutely. He
Not
was the
Ward.
one Tony.
Right. No.
Yeah, Tony.
The drummer.
The drummer, Bill Ward. Yeah, he
Right,
was the
it
one
was
that he was the one who really got Ozzy into the group, despite Tony's reluctance, as I mentioned earlier there.
But they did make it a group effort on the credits.
Absolutely, there is. So imagine on the new reissues of the new album, they probably most likely set the record straight who did the Warning track ahead of time before Sabbath got a hold of that song there, which they made pretty lot more darker than the original.
Right.
And Sleeping Village, by the way, is about someone kind of like foretelling something happening to a village while the people are asleep and not wondering.
Okay, the next album was Paranoid.
Oh yeah, the classic, the big one there. Title Cut became one of the biggest well-known songs that they ever came out, along with their anti-war theme, War Pigs, which, by the way, I have a story about that. That song was originally supposed to have been called War Purglas, meaning the witches' Sabbath. But the company at that time was kind of, both companies, Vertical in the UK and Warner Brothers in the States, kind of like felt it was, they should kind of like change it up a little bit there because, there was some backlash over the first album with the gatefold in the UK. Right. And the atmosphere and the name and the cover, front cover there. A lot of people were speculating that they were Satanists, and to get away from that for a while, they decided to change the lyrics to talk about the Vietnam War, which was at that time full effect.
Right.
Yeah. In fact, War Pigs originally was supposed to be the original title for the Paranoid album, noting the man jumping out from behind a tree dressed as a warrior, a helmet, wielding a sword and a shield.
Right.
Yeah.
Would have made more sense probably, but...
Absolutely. But alas, something had to be changed at the last minute there, so no problem there. It still became a big hit.
Right.
And what they did on a couple of the tracks for the U.S. version of the album, they added the thing where it starts as da 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 da. That piece was titled. They gave that piece named Luke's Wall. So it was War Pigs / Luke's Wall.
Right.
And then dun 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 dun. That piece was later be titled Jack the Stripper, next to Fairies Wear Boots.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a kind of unique setup right there. Well, of course, they had Planet Caravan, Iron Man, which, by the way, basically is about revenge against a civilization for not thanking him for saving their lives.
Yeah, Bob Rivers did a parody on that, called it I Am Santa Claus.
I remember hearing that just as well. And also, let's not forget, probably one of the most profound anti-nuclear war anthems, Electric Funeral.
Yeah.
And probably, to me, one of the most anti-drug songs ever, Hand of Doom, which really detail, which was one of the good reasons why you should not get involved with drug use. Definitely.
Yeah.
Listen to the lyrics of that song, and you'll see what I'm talking about there. It is kind of gruesome to listen to when you really think about it there.
And then there was a curious inclusion of Rat Salad.
Yeah, which was a Bill Ward drum solo there.
And then again, you mentioned it, Fairies Wear Boots.
Yep, Jack the Stripper in the States here. That's how it was called there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, the third album, Master of Reality. Now, apparently, what the story was, believe it or not, this is going to be interesting here because they did the same thing with the first pressings of that album as well. The first editions of the third album came in an envelope sleeve containing a poster of the band with the band's title embossed in black lettering, visible in relief. Later editions, lacking the embossed printing, would later render the album title in gray. This was the first Sabbath sleeve in which the lyrics were produced on the back of the album. In his autobiography, Tony Iommi described the cover as slightly spinal tap-ish, way only well before Spinal Tap. The labels of the album were different as well. Side A featured the infamous Swirl label that Vertical, their UK label, had displayed, with the back circles were white and the white circles black. Side B was the information label with all the songs on this side and that side. Now, on the first North American editions of the album, several songs had subtitles given to some segments, making it appear that there were more than just 8 tracks on that album. The intro to After Forever was given the title The Elegy, E-L-E-L-E-G-S. The outro to Children of the Grave was entitled The Haunting. The intro to Lord of This World was entitled Step Up. And the intro to Into the Void was called Death Mask. This treatment had been also used on the North American editions of the Black Sabbath's 2 previous albums, as we stated before. These pressings also incorrectly list the album as Masters of Reality. Now, of course, they had to correct the title and everything else later on. Now, editions would correct, of course, to remove all the 3 of the 4 subtitles except the elegy. The one that's elegy. Yes, I got to pronounce my work on that there. It peaked at number 5 in the UK charts, number 8 in the States, and is considered one of their lyrically best albums ever. When it comes to lyrics detailing this situation, whether it's Lord of This World, Into the Void, or Feeling Alone Without Your Loved One by Your Side, as displayed in Solitude, very haunting track to listen to there. It is considered one of their heavy metal albums of all time, and it also gave gateway to the grunge alternative rock movement in the 1990s. Bands like especially Soundgarden, would go on to duplicate their sound as well. In fact, they even did a cover of Into the Void, but with different lyrics. Lyrics taken from a story from Chief Seattle, or Chief titled Stealth, the stealth version. That was released on the companion EP to the Bad Motor Finger album in '91 there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they followed this album up with possibly my favorite Ozzy album.
By and Form.
Yeah. Because I absolutely love Wheels of Confusion, the Straightener.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they did that. They also did that with the last track, Under the Sun, including Every Day Comes and Goes.
Well, quick about y'all brought up Sabotage.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the song is on there that I like is called
The Rit.
Yes.
Yeah, so the last track on that album. And
Very
that and Megalomania was a direct tax towards their management at that time.
yes.
As you know, they were going through issues with their management. Seems that they found out that they were not making that much money. Most of the percentage of their royalties and earnings were going to the management.
Now people said
Because
that Volume 4 that was the best Ozzy sounded too, right?
yeah, it was.
Yeah, actually, that one song Changes is
Yeah.
kind of a departure from what Black Sabbath normally did, but it's well done and well crafted.
Yeah.
Also, Laguna Sunrise, which is on side True, the third track in there.
Yeah.
It was a acoustic guitar with an orchestra in the back. Very beautiful. I played it for my mom one time, and she was like, "Who is that? That's beautiful. That's Black Sabbath." Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, they did a Snowblind song.
But we all know what it's about there. But a little song about the Great White High.
Yeah, it's at least the third Snowblind song I know of.
Absolutely,
Didn't
yeah.
Styx and didn't Ace Frehley do that too, or no? Maybe covered
Well,
it.
well, the
Well, new
Snowblind the Snowblind that Styx did was not a Sabbath cover. This was entirely different tune. It had
Yeah.
nothing to do with cocaine. You know, it's like I think it may have been about somebody being snowblinded by one's deception, if I'm correct.
Mm.
Right. And then Steppenwolf did one called Snowblind Friend, which
Yeah,
was about a guy they knew was on stuff.
cocaine. Yeah, cocaine's one hell of a drug, people. Yeah. But keep in mind, they also had the original Supernaut, which back, as we all know, will later become a club hit
That is
when
a song. Listen, that is a song on Ace
Blindfold.
Frehley's solo album. It's called Snowblind. Just
Yeah, I
was
know.
a different
Yeah.
song. Ace
Yeah, it is.
Frehley and Kiss.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, we all know Supernaut being covered by Al Jorgensen of Ministry and one of his many projects at that time, 1000 Homo DJs. They covered that song. That piece was supposed to include originally Trent Reznor on vocals, but Trent's label at that time vetoed that, so Al ended up having to redo the vocals himself. The original would later come up on a Wax Tracks compilation called Black Box. But but the cover of Supernaut was a massive hit in the clubs, massive hit on the industrial gothic radio stations there, and they're located at various colleges there.
Of course, they followed that up, which, like I said, possibly my favorite Ozzy album, but maybe not, because the next one's actually close.
Mm-hmm.
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
And then let's not forget the cover of that album being one of the top shocking album covers that they ever put it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure YR, you and Prince Idol, you have seen the covers of that album, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you saw Prince,
Yes.
when you saw that album cover, we like, what the fuck?
Dude, I was like in middle school when I saw it. A friend of mine showed it to me, and I was like, "What type of shit is this?" He's like, "Oh, just listen to it, bro. Just listen to it." So I was put on to a lot of things by usually a friend. That's
Yeah.
how.
Yeah,
this,
because
this definitely had some interesting songs on it. Of course, the title track.
yep, absolutely. About someone who doesn't really appreciate their life and appreciate the people around them, finally meeting their end for that.
And another interesting instrumental by Iommi, Fluff.
Yeah, absolutely there. Beautiful another ballad there that Iommi came up with. And also featured Rick Wakeman from Yes on the keyboards there, which he didn't ask for money. All he asked was for beer, by the way.
Yeah.
And it also featured one of the first tracks to feature mostly synthesizer. The track "Who Are You?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one freaky ass song to listen to when you look at it there.
Yeah, because it really wasn't Sabbath-like at all.
Absolutely. But then again, that shows you how much of a diverse band Sabbath can be at many times there. Now,
There,
going back to the cover, the front cover showed a man been dying a horrible death with all the people around him becoming demons, a snake around his neck there. And the back cover showed the same guy dying a peaceful death with the people around him praying for him, sobbing, and with the arms of God spread out for him.
of course, the next album was Sabotage, which
Yeah, the main, which
again it
Wheels
comes pretty darn close to 4.
absolutely, which is a lot more angrier than Four when you look about it. This was a one dark album that they put it out because, as I mentioned, this album was recorded when their band were having issues with their management. Apparently, as I detailed, the band's management was owning everything, including pieces of their music, including the houses that they lived in, the cars that they were driving, everything. And whatever money they had left was mostly spent on drugs. Remember, they were addicts at that time. Ozzy even said that they were like kids at a candy store. In fact, at one point, he even said in an interview that drugs often helped them, create the songs that they did. They would get stoned out of their minds. They would start jamming. They would have tapes running for God knows how many hours. Then they would stop, listen to the pieces, and then somehow try to puzzle it all together.
Hmm.
A lot of that stuff was displayed on Volume 4 on the tracks. One of the tracks I mentioned, whether it's Cornucopia, Under the Sun, or possible or the Straightener, Wheels Confusion. There, a lot of that stuff, was often done by. Basically, the question was it chemistry or chemicals that contributed to the band's music?
Yeah.
I'm thinking both.
Of course, it starts with Hole in the Sky.
Badass.
Don't Stop.
Too late.
Symptom of the Universe.
Badass song right there.
Megalomania, which is
very
I already
haunting.
mentioned.
Yep, very, very brutal song there to listen to there. Very kind of nightmarish. So would it go with one of those Hammer films from the 1960s
Yeah.
about Count Dracula? It would fit perfectly.
Thrill of It All Open Side 2.
Yeah.
And then another Iommi
Composition. Superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Z replacing the S in the star word there. And this was followed by a choir there singing along to the guitar chords that Iommi was putting together.
And then, of course, we had Am I Going Insane?
Yep. Which has this laughing in the back towards the end of the song, and someone screaming at the end. Ah, ah. That's frightening to listen to.
And then
When you
The
think
Rip,
about
which
it.
is another one that I mentioned. That's a very good song.
Absolutely. Another brutal song, going off on their management for ripping them off and fucking them like in the ass like they did. And of course, they would at this time the Warners would decide that Warners and Vertigo would come out with a greatest hits compilation called "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll," which the gatefold of that album featured a woman lying in a coffin with a cross stuck inside of her. No blood or anything, just her with a dazed look on her face, and that.
Hmm.
That was kind of gruesome to look at when you think about it. There, very gruesome. Of course, I mentioned there was no blood, but still, it's like, what the heck, dude? All those images, by the way, would help further and further the conception that Sabbath were Satan worshippers.
Yeah.
According to parents, according to the many Christian groups out there, they came under a lot of scrutiny under the Bible Belt there.
And a lot of that wasn't even their doing.
Absolutely, a lot of it was the record labels. Because remember, here's the thing. We all know the 3 C's of the entertainment industry. I spoke about it many times. Controversy creates cash. Gain a little controversy about this artist or this group there, people will buy it up immediately.
Yeah.
But then again, there's going to be times where sometimes that controversy may take its toll on you. During the performance, one time, Tony Iommi noticed there was something with his amplifier or something. He went to check on it, and somebody tried to jab him with a knife. Of course, roadies got rid of the guy, but the guy was like shouting him, calling him Satanist here and there. And there was this one crazy moment where the band was heading back to their hotel room, and there was these guys in these cloaks sitting around a bunch of candles them, and there was this chanting here and there. So the guys went back went into the hotel room, synchronized their watches, came out, blew out the candles, and just shouted out, "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday!" Can you imagine the looks on those guys in the cloaks faces when they did that to them? Oh, dude.
Then
But
we have technical ecstasy.
which by the way had a lot more hard. Instead of heavy sound, it was a lot more lighter than it was with other Sabbath records. Some
It's
of the
all
tone
right.
on that, yep, which had featured Bill Ward on vocals there. The song "All Moving Parts Stand Still" was about the possibility of a transvestite becoming president of the United States of America. "Dirty Women," based on the various amount of prostitutes you see walking the streets of Miami, Florida, where they recorded that album. And a lot of other things there. "Gypsy" is a good one. "She's Gone," a very tender ballad about one missing their lover who's went away and never came back. "You Won't Change Me," with a kind of had an attitude that I'm going to be me whether you like it or not. No one's going to change who I am. So I'm going to stay this way to the day I die. And funny thing about that album is that it was a lot more lighter, as I mentioned, and for two reasons. One, Tony Iommi had went to visit the band Queen, recorded in their studio. He fell in love with the sound, with their techniques that they were doing, and decided, let's apply some of this onto Black Sabbath. And the second reason was to get away from the black magic satanic stigma, as we mentioned, was dogging the band from day one.
Right.
Yes. And that also gave gateway to Never Say Die, which came out in '78.
Which
Their
is the
last with
last, in this era, this is the last Ozzy.
Last Ozzy. Now, that album was recorded in Toronto, Canada, during the coldest of winters. Ozzy said that you couldn't go outside because you'll freeze your balls off. They rented a theater up there, so they wrote and recorded their album there. And apparently between Technical Soul Ecstasy and Never Say Die, Ozzy walked away from the group for some reason there. And the band decided to get a guy named Dave Walker as a new frontman. They recorded some demos. And then they came up with a song called, I forgot the title of it, but that song would later be retitled Junior's Eyes with new lyrics when Ozzy came back. Now, the story behind Junior's Eyes was that it was Ozzy saying goodbye to his father, John Michael Osborne Sr. Ozzy is John Jr. He was very sick at that time, so Ozzy wrote the lyrics to that, as a way of saying goodbye to his dad ahead of time there. Johnny Blade, a song about, a thug living on the streets who's angry, monstrous, basically a punk who has resentment towards everyone in his life, and anyone who crosses his path gets a knife right through their bodies or their necks or whichever there. Songs like "Swinging the Chain" featured Bill Ward once again there. An instrumental called "Breakout," which had a horn section of all things there.
Yeah.
"Over to You," which featured basically they were including some more keyboards into their music there, which was courtesy of a guy named Don Avery, who's now the current keyboardist for Deep Purple. He took over after John Lord decided to retire from the band ages before his death. Now, the band would also go on tour at that time. They would take along a new upcoming group from Pasadena, California, black, known as Van Halen. And the word on it that
I've
Van
heard of
Halen
them.
was a yes. And the word is that they were blowing Black Sabbath off stage almost every night. And I guess what I remember hearing the story is that, and this is from something I read in a magazine story there ages ago throughout the early 80s there. I think about 91, no, actually 81, 83, 82 there. Ozzy was drunk. He went in there and started screaming and hit his head off at Van Halen. And somebody asked him, what is the problem? And Ozzy was like, I don't know. And just walked away there. Now, of course, Ozzy's drug use at that time was way out of control there. Apparently because Tony Iommi was taking control of the band's creative process. He was the only one doing all he can, to keep Sabbath going. Everybody else seemed to be caring less and caring less and caring less. And apparently issues with Ozzy was getting even more worse. They said in many times he couldn't even work with him at that point. He was apparently hard to deal with. It was either touch or go or walking on eggshells with him. At one point, he refused to do the songs from the Techno Ecstasy album. He refused to. It started right after that. After that album was done. Finally, they decided, we need to kick Ozzy out. Tony Iommi made the decision. Bill Ward made a call to Ozzy. Ozzy was crushed. He spent several days in a hotel room in L.A., cooped up with pizza, drugs, and everything else. That was until Sharon Alden, who was the daughter of Don Alden, their management, contacted him, Ozzy, to see if he had money on him that he was supposed to pay back when she saw how Ozzy was living, let alone how he spent that money. She, she gave him a scolding. She had to give him a schooling. She had to really teach him a thing or two. And Ozzy at that point was really was depressed. He was unhappy because of what happened.
What, somebody step in a wind tunnel?
Yeah.
That's me. Dr. Earl, has Ozzy or any of the other members of Black Sabbath smoked cannabis?
Oh yeah, we all. In fact, I guess
Well, that's
everyone
what
smoked
Sweet Leaf is about.
Absolutely, everybody smoked the cannabis at that time. You were an outcast if you didn't.
Sweet
Oh,
Leaf,
wow.
I remember that one. See, look.
What about
okay.
the cops?
The cops. I don't know if they ever got arrested for that. I know it.
See,
Okay.
That's the thing, though. There's obviously a couple played on the radio. Obviously, Iron Man's played a million times on the radio.
Yep.
I've heard
War Pigs as well.
I've heard War Pig, but I think I've heard Sweet Leaf a couple times on the radio.
Oh, I've heard it many times.
Oh, yeah,
many times.
Yeah, that's one of the ones they play. So it's
Absolutely.
interesting.
That and Children of the Grave as well. There.
Paranoid. They play a
Oh,
lot.
yeah.
Paranoid.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Can you
I
play?
only
Can
know-
you? Real quick.
I only I only know 2 songs from Black Sabbath. They're Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
I know Paranoid and I know Crazy Train.
Yo,
That's
Brown.
not Black Sabbath.
That's not Black Sabbath. That's Ozzy solo.
Yeah, I get the 2 confused. Yeah.
Paranoid is Sabbath. Brown, what can you play on guitar of Black Sabbath? Anything?
Oh yeah, War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. I was playing. Yeah, absolutely. I was playing a lot of Sabbath stuff. I was big on them during my early teen years. You could ask my sister.
Did you ever give? Well, I don't like to talk. I don't want to talk to anyone's family or nothing. Did you Did you get your guitar fixed and all that? Your amp and all?
Oh. No, I never got a chance to because I got to do that later on when they get done from the grocery store. When you think about it, there, I keep picking some. I've been fiddling with it here and there, but I don't know what I'm thinking. Basically, maybe the pedal or something like that. I don't know.
And the next album introduced Ronnie James Dio as the vocalist.
Yeah, Heaven and Hell from 1980. In fact, 1980 was a good year for new singers to debut, along with AC/DC's Back in Black with Brian Johnson taking over the late Bon Scott. In fact, those two albums, along with The Wall by Pink Floyd, were the three essential in your
Oh,
collection
so
by the end of that year.
this album has a ton of great songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
Children of the Sea, which
Die
about is
Young.
Die Young.
Let's go through all the songs, but Die Young's like my favorite on there. Heaven and
Oh
Hell,
yeah,
obviously, the title. But let's
yeah,
go
yeah.
through.
Lonely is the Word, which is a closing track, which is a good song, you know. Walk Away, Wishing Well. Of course, we cannot forget, you know, the first track of the album, Neon Nights, which is a good jam there.
Oh my god.
And
Oh my god.
Children of the Sea, which according to Dio was about, you know, exploring the getting into things without totally understanding, you know, like so locking the door and throwing away the key there, you know, something of that metaphor there.
Of course, Walk Away is not the James Gang song. It's different.
It's a different song there,
And
absolutely
Wishing
there.
Well is not the Freeze song. It's different.
No,
Did-
absolutely.
Did in their later years, did Dio do a tour run with Sabbath like in the 2000s or 2010s?
Well, they did. Well, he did. Well, he did with the 20.
No, I know Ozzy did with them, but when was this?
This was in about 2007. It wasn't called Black Sabbath. It was called Heaven and Hell. I guess Ozzy had the rights to the Sabbath name, so he had to. And since some people were calling that lineup the Heaven and Hell lineup, when it came back in '91, they decided to call it Heaven and Hell. Since that's the main song they know for that particular lineup that still gets played on the radio today.
Right.
I never heard that song. I never heard that song on the radio. I mean, like satellite, but you hear that on the regular FM radio?
Which one is it? Which one you said again?
No, I'm saying
Heaven and
you
Hell.
hear Heaven and Hell on the regular radio. I never hear.
Oh
it.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I hear it a lot.
Really?
Dude. It was
Well, back in the
19
all right,
back-
back,
it
I'm
still
talking
gets
about now,
played today.
though.
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, it still does on classic rock stations. Yeah,
All
a
right.
couple times there. Yes.
They're not gonna put no Die Young on there, nothing like that.
Yeah, no, they don't. They only
They'll
play that.
throw Heaven and Hell on there, which is the title track and the most known song on there. But there's what I mean. Look, honestly, what was the other one you said?
Neon Nights.
Neon Nights
Yeah.
kills Heaven and Hell. I think. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so. I think it's way better.
It is a badass song. I
It is.
prefer the live evil version of that track next to the studio version myself there, along with the live live evil version of Children of the Sea. For some
Now-
reason, the guitar.
Now
For
the
some
Heaven and
reason-
Hell.
Go ahead.
The
Go
Heaven
ahead.
and Hell song, the Heaven and Hell song, would be pretty easy maybe to learn on guitar.
It is.
I
It
mean,
is. I did. Me and a couple of neighbors who had jammed it on that song back in around the 81,
Some type of-
82 there.
is
We
some
did.
type of power chord on that one? Is that a
Yeah. Yeah,
power
it is.
chord? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Everybody knows like
So you have
that.
to do the dun 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 dun, which is easy, and then dun 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 dun, dun which would be kind of hard for me maybe because keep in mind I'm a beginner, but I'm like, kind of learning on myself, watching videos, and the more you do it, really, honestly, people say it all the time. It's all really is all about the practice, bro. The more you practice, the more you get better.
Yep.
And the more,
Absolutely.
what's the word? Like you keep doing it.
Repetition.
Like repetition. That's important, and you'll eventually get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My wrists be fucking like I got arthritis or something. It's like it hurts after
No, when I first started playing, the tips of my fingers would be hurting me for a while. I had to wear
Until
these
you
little
develop the
protective things.
calluses.
Yeah, I got skin peeling off my fingertips and stuff.
Oh, well, that's expected. After a long while, it wouldn't even bother you no more. You get that.
Yep.
That's calluses developing in your fingertips.
Just fine. I mean, and I buy my nails, so that's another thing. You don't want nails on the whatever hand you're using. To press down on the strings. You don't want nails, long nails. You know what I'm saying?
Nope, I try to keep mine up. The only guitar players that have long fingernails are usually on the right hand, so they could do a finger pick their guitars.
You know what song we'll quick sidebar, we'll get back in, but this is kind of a reminder that Keith out there too, remind me this week. I want to tackle the riff of Whole Lot of Love, Led Zeppelin.
Oh, that's an easy one to
It's
play
easy,
as
right?
well.
It
It
is.
is. It absolutely, yeah.
That's the thing. These fucking like people don't understand if you don't play an instrument, but it's like I mean, obviously the music and songs live forever. You know, even past when those artists pass away.
Yep.
But when you can play, even what I like to do, I'm trying to like learn riffs. I mean, yeah, you can I can learn the how to read music and blah blah blah. And there's tons of different shit, planetonics. You know,
Hmm.
some type of you've heard of that, pentatonics or some shit. All types of different,
Pentatonics.
yeah, and all types of different things and ways. But like, I'm gonna tackle riffs, and so far, you know, I'm pretty proud of myself. But that the feeling you get when you play something that's probably been heard on the radio, like the TNT riff or the
Hmm.
I Wrote a
Yep.
Hell riff or something like that, or and you hear that on the radio all the time. It's like, dang, I can do the same thing this fucking great guitarist did. I mean, obviously he invented it. You didn't make the riff, but you're
Yep.
doing it. You get the sound right. You have some. And at
And
the end of the
speaking of,
day, like you don't even need like the best equipment either. You just make sure you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
Everything's tuned and in tune. And like,
absolutely, and how you play it, how you style it is just
it's
as
really
well.
just a
And
different.
speaking
It's
of guitars,
real
let's
quick,
keep
real
in mind.
quick. It's a
Yeah,
different feeling, Brown, when you can actually play the music right and listen. It's like
absolutely.
wow. It's like go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, and let's also keep in mind, the one, amount of respect Tony Iommi has gotten throughout the years for continuing to play guitar, despite what happened to him when he was working at some sheet cutting factory. He was working this industrial job when he was about 16 or 17. Um, he was he went home for lunch. Was supposed to go back to work. His mom made him go back to work. It's because you need the money and all that stuff there. And he was doing his work, but apparently it was either a bad switch or whichever there. But the blade that he was working over came down on the two tips of his two middle fingers on his right hand. So they were snipped off. Boom. Now, I only tried to play the guitar a couple of times as it was, but he couldn't lickety split. So we had to come up with these little things where he would, these little fake tips that would tape to his fingers at times. Like they were made of hard leather there, and he has a whole bunch of them. He has a big, I guess, a lunchbox full of these things there because for an obvious reason. To this day, those tips of those two fingers are still kind of tender there, but he had to come up with a new style of like a guitar playing, which he kind of makes him sound like he's using playing with six fingers when you think about it there. So a lot of people, so anybody out there who is lost to some sort of a little function with his fingers, take a note from this guy. He was able to bounce back from that particular situation even bigger and better than before. Like the meme I saw one time said it best. Loses two tips of his fingers in an accident, invents heavy metal. Enough said.
Yeah. Then they followed that album up with Mob Rules.
Another badass from the '81 there. The title cut from that album, if you ever saw the movie Heavy Metal from 1981, that the title cut from that was used in that movie definitely.
Like the documentary thing.
Oh
No, it
no,
was
well,
no,
let's say cartoon animated.
the
Oh no,
animated
I'm
movie
thinking of
there.
the thing where that the artist from Wasp was in the swimming pool drunk.
No, that's the decline of Western civilization,
That's
part
what I thought
two,
y'all were talking about
the
just now.
metal
So I
years.
didn't see. I don't know what you're talking about then.
Yeah. Ozzy does make a couple appearances in that movie, making breakfast, but that's about it.
Yeah,
No
the
Sabbath
black
there.
heavy metal is a animation sort of thing,
Yeah.
and I believe it's from a
Based on a
comic
book,
book.
comic book called of the same name.
Yeah,
It was a fantasy sci-fi magazine with a lot of illustrated comic book stories there.
had a lot of artists in it, or
Yeah, a
not
lot
in
of
it,
it.
but their music.
Yeah, absolutely. Debo, Blois Occult, Black Sabbath with the song we mentioned, Mob Rules, a band called Trust, Don Felder, Sammy Hagar, you name it.
And it's kind of trippy as far as the movie itself.
Oh yeah, very shady. If you ever check that out, Keith YR Prince, do so. Go check it out, especially the last story featuring the lady that I was telling Ken about, Tarna, the last Tarnakian. You look her up on the Google Images, you'll see what I'm talking about.
All
Oh,
right.
are you talking about a movie?
Yes, the movie Heavy Metal.
Oh, okay. I want to ask Devious Dave Rose what he thinks of Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke.
Huh? Is he in your chat right now?
No, I just thought of it like 10 minutes ago.
Oh, it's hell.
Sergeant Stadenko.
Oh yeah, we all know him. Yes.
With all those Mexicans in it.
No, that was the first. That was the first movie.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man.
Right. Now, of course, after that tour, they would record some songs from that particular tour, and they released that as Live Evil, a double set featuring all the characters of the songs they performed on that album. Neon Night there on the front there, Angel and the Devil, Heaven and Hell, kids swimming in a coffin or to shore there, meaning children of the sea and children of the grave. Of course, a man in a straitjacket, paranoid, all the characters depicting the songs that they perform on that album are right there on the front cover. And of course, there was an issue with that, by the way. There apparently, members were being accused of sneaking into the studio and fucking with the controls there to make their parts sound louder than the others. So finally, there was a whole bunch of arguing that went along there. Rodney James Dio got accused of doing so. He says, "I'll see ya. Bye. Don't see ya. Don't want to be ya." And along with that, their drummer at that time, Vinny Appice, who filled in, who took over after Bill Ward decided to depart during the middle of the Heaven and Hell tour from 1980, which they did with, which actually I should say, Black and Blue tour. They did a joint. They did a co-headlining tour with Blue Oyster Cult that year. Bill Ward would depart because he just couldn't see himself working with another singer, so they brought in Vinny Appice to fill in the drum rolls. Now, Vinny, by the way, is the younger brother of Carmine Appice, the legend. And he would have played
Vanilla Fudge.
Absolutely, and Rod Stewart and Cactus fame. And also Blue Murder fame just as well there.
And Beck Bogert Appice.
That's right. This guy's been around there. And I guess he does a podcast as well with a couple of some writers, I guess it was. Now, Live Evil, now, as I mentioned, a couple of songs from the Live Evil album where stand out more better than the studio version. In particular, Children of the Sea, Neon Nights, But this guitar solo during the middle of Heaven and Hell, I don't know if Iommi was trying to sound like Randy Rhoads or Eddie Van Halen, because at that time, guitar shredding was the thing. But I don't know, for some reason, it's kind of off when you look at it, when you listen to it there. Very off. But then again, as I mentioned, a lot of guitar players will try to fill in try to do all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, Sabbath later had to look for a new singer and a new drummer because Vinny Appice decided to leave with Dio. Now, Dio said in an interview he didn't have to, but he said, "I'm coming with you." So they decided to put together their band, simply titled Dio. They recorded a number of albums for the same label, Warner Brothers. And he would have a modest success with Rainbow in the Dark, Holy Diver, Mystery, and other songs there, Dream Evil, and so on and so on. And of course, Sabbath recruited, got Bill Ward back into the group, and they got singer Ian Gillan from Deep Purple as their frontman for a while there. Their album, went on recording that album, Born Again, which was recorded at a place called The Manor.
And I'm thinking the name of that album denotes
Yep.
the new singer.
Yep, Born Again. And the cover of that album featured this. It was a drawing of a baby, with all red, devil horns, long fingernails, evil look on his face as it was crying. And apparently Ian Gillan did not like the cover of that album. But then again, everyone else approved of it.
Right.
And basically it was a little basically the guy who did that cover thought, I'll just did it anyway, even though they were going to reject it, but it ended up being approved for the cover there. But we already know Gillan's opinion of it. And apparently, according to many others, the album did not turn out the way they wanted to. Gillan himself even stated, when I heard the album, I puked. After looking at the cover, I also puked. And apparently, from what I understand now, the master tapes of that album has been found, and there's a possibility that that album may get remixed and released soon, which I don't think would be a good idea, because the original was this thrusting, monstrous, bombastic, force-driven album. This was an album that offered no apologies. This basically, to me, was an album what heavy metal should be, period. That album, by the way, has now reached massive cult status among Sabbath diehards, including me. It's been reissued a couple of times on the Castle Communications, and as we see, and as I stated, it may be remixed and reissued as a new version pretty soon, like they did with the Raw Power from Iggy Pop and the Stooges.
Yeah. And of course, Gillan left the band at this time
to rejoin Deep Purple, because apparently it just wasn't going to work out. Apparently, fans were not eager to buy the Born Again album. Figured, oh gosh, are they going to have another singer or whichever there? It started to become a joke. And of course, during that time, Bill Ward, had to drop out of the tour for health reasons, so they got Bev Bevan from ELO to fill in for that time. Now, a couple years later, the original Black Sabbath would reunite for Live Aid in 1980, the July of that year. I was happy to watch that there. In fact, I even posted about that Twitter, that particular one of the backstage photos of them there. Great moment there next to The Who reuniting and Queen, and then Led Zeppelin reuniting for that particular event there. When Led Zeppelin, before even this played the note, fans were like cheering like crazy. Now, the following year after that, Geezer Butler would decide to depart, thinking that this is not the Sabbath I used to know, leaving Tony on his own. Seven Star was meant to be a Tony Iommi solo album. Instead, the company, both Vertigo and Warner Brothers, suggested, hey, make it into a Black Sabbath album. Who would know the difference with all the lineup changes in your group there? Tony Iommi went with it. They got Glenn Hughes as their frontman, Dan Spitz as the bass player, Eric Singer on the drums, and of course a guy named, we all know, Jeff Nichols, who was their backup keyboardist from 1980, since 1980. He was an official member of the group. Sabbath was now a 5-piece group for the time being. Seven Star would be released in January of 1986. I remember picking it up when it was still snowing outside there. Great album to listen to. I was constantly playing that album on left and right. But to many diehards, this isn't Sabbath. And apparently the tour, that people were kind of questioning the tour as well. There was an incident where apparently Hughes was either high out of his mind or forgetful of the lyrics. It was in Detroit, it'd be exactly there. And I heard about it from a couple of people I knew and I worked with at the job at that time, saying it was not that good. It was not that good of a show there. He was all, in fact, he was all geeked up to see Sabbath there. He was playing We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll the night before they went to the show. And then the next day, I asked him, how was the show? He said, it sucked. Of
And
course,
then they
probably,
moved on. Oh, go ahead.
one day they released one album, and this was definitely a Tony solo album when you think about it there. The Eternal Idol. Worst, I'm sorry, that was the worst album Sabbath would ever come out. The songs were just not there when you think about it there. And this would also feature the debut of Tony Martin as a new frontman. There was no, they also did a couple of shows in South Africa, which was a no-no at that time. A lot of people were questioning them for doing that. Probably did it for the money. Of course, this will be the last record for their U.S. label, Warner Brothers. They were let go after that, or their contract went up. They were signed with IRS Records, and they released that album called Headless Cross, which is a heavy-ass album to listen to. Of course, the new lineup at that time was Cozy Powell on drums and Neil Murray on bass guitar. They would do some shows. Although I guess it was a package tour, I guess.
They were still
Bands
using
like
Martin at that time?
Yes, they were. They were using it up until now 91 when the Dio came back to the group. And they also, now the following year, they released an album called TRY, which I think it means tear, if I'm
TYR?
correct. Yes. That means tear, if I'm correct, right?
I suppose.
Yeah. This album was based on Nordic mythology there. Odin, Valhalla, Jerusalem. This will be a great album to listen to while you're watching the show Vikings, needless to say, because it was based on that alone there.
Okay, Dr. Brown, this is where as a co-host, this is where I punch in the ad. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you, because we're getting close to wrapping up. We thank you for joining Dr. Errol Brown with Arknolia, Keith, YR. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us next Monday as we do a review on Arknolia Rocks with Michael Monroe and the whole story on what happened to their drummer, Razzle. And we thank you for tuning in as we dissect and do our review on Black Sabbath. More to continue.
All right, there. All right, thank you, Prince. Definitely. Thank you, guy. Thank you, Prince. Now, and also check out Prince Sato on the YR program, almost on the daily there. They do Morning Mixture and other shows as well, community Q&A there. And now, of course, 91, Sabbath announces that they're getting back together with Ronnie James Dio. Him and Cozy Powell were not seeing eye to eye, so Cozy decides to leave. Vinny Appice is brought back. They two will tour together there. It was considered the return to the Heaven and Hell lineup, according to many agencies and advertisers there. The following year, they will release Dehumanizer, another superb album. They would do a tour, and one of the iconic shows at that time was at the Casa Mesa gig for a two-night stand. Ozzy at that time was announcing he was retiring from the scene, apparently after being misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis. But apparently, so he decided to take the good way out, just go out with a bang with these two shows there, having Sabbath open for him. Now, here was the problem. Dio refused to do those shows because many years before, Ozzy had slammed Dio in the press in many interviews, saying, Dio doesn't belong. It's not Black Sabbath. It sounds like Blackmore Sabbath because it sounds like fucking Rainbow, as he would say at one time. Dio gets upset over this. He's not happy about that. He's the new guy in the group. Can imagine how he must be feeling. Now, because of this, Dio decided not to show up for those two shows. He decided to bow out, saying, I don't want to do it. It's Ozzy's night. I don't want to spoil it and all that jazz. But the facts that Ozzy had gotten from Dio himself said, quote unquote, never will Ronnie James Dio ever share the same stage with Ozzy Osbourne. Of course, Ozzy at that time, when after his firing from Black Sabbath, was doing all these crazy things in the midst of his solo success, including biting the head off of a bat on stage, the biting the head off of the dove during that record company meeting there prior to his first solo record being released. Of course, peeing on the Alamo, which I consider was a very disrespectful thing to do. I agree on that one there. He did a lot of crazy shit. Most of it was when he was on the alcohol, on the booze cap there. Ozzy had drinking problems for many years. In fact, believe it or not, he was oftentimes drunk on the set of the Osbournes filming, believe it or not. So they get Rob Halford from Judas Priest, who at that time, had reportedly left Judas Priest to fill in those two shows. One of the shows was recorded on a bootleg cassette. It's on YouTube right now. Very excellent performance. Rob Halford handled it like a damn pro.
Wait.
Credit. What?
What was it? Did I miss something here?
Yeah, Rob Halford singing for Black Sabbath in 1992.
It was a one concert thing, or
No,
like a whole...
no. It was a 2-night stand at Costa Mesa, California.
What? It's on YouTube?
Yes, it's on YouTube. Look it up. Black Sabbath, Rob Halford, 1992, and you'll see the whole concert, one of the whole concerts there. And also credit, by the way, Rob Halford would be the first guy to fill in for both singers of Black Sabbath. In 92, filling in for Dio, and in 2004, filling in for Ozzy, who at that time was dealing with bronchitis. And like I said, it's a very damn good performance that they did there. Rob Halford was able to hit Dio's high notes when you look at it. The way he did Children of the Sea, The Mob Rules, the way they did Into the Void. Awesome. Very awesome. Definitely worth checking out, folks. Of course, after that, Tony Martin would come back to the band along with the Headless Cross lineup. They released actually, before that, Geezer would stay with the group.
I just listened to some of it just now. That's fucking awesome.
It is, yeah, it absolutely there. Definitely check it out there, folks, if you ever see it on YouTube. Tony Martin would come back to Sabbath. Geezer would remain. They would get Bobby Redinelli on drums. They would record 94's Cross Purposes, an okay album. The following year, they would release Forbidden with the Headless Cross lineup. Neil Murray returning to his bass chores, taking over Geezer Butler again. That album, by the way, was produced by Ernie C. of Ice-T's Body Count. In fact, Ice-T makes an appearance on the first cut of the album, The Illusion of Power. In fact, I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but there was a video for that track featuring scenes from Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars Episode 3. Dealing with, of course, the object is this person with the illusion of having all this power, kind of similar to Anakin Skywalker when you'll think about it there. Of course, later on, Sabbath would go on, take some time off, and it was announced that Sabbath would return with Ozzy, Tony, and Geezer. Bill Ward was not asked to join the group for some oddball reason. They would headline the second Ozfest tour that year, apparently outbeating Lilith Fair with Sarah McLachlan, a whole bunch of other female artists there. And of course, Bill Ward would return to the group there. I remember seeing Bill Ward at the iRock nightclub back in that same year. He had a solo record called When the Ball Breaks. One of the songs at that album I'm hearing is called Children Killing Children, which is a detail about youth violence there. And after the show, all of us was having the discussion. Apparently, they didn't ask him. They didn't ask him to come back for some dumb reason there. But they did reconcile the differences. And the next year, in '98, they decided to do a reunion show in their hometown of Birmingham, England. That concert was recorded for Reunion, released it that year, which the live version of Iron Man would later earn them a Grammy.
Yeah, I saw Sabbath about this time, and I don't remember exactly when it was. Ozzy was in the group.
Absolutely, the original Sabbath there.
They
And
they were at Dallas. I want to say Reunion Arena, but I could be wrong.
maybe, but Sabbath would they'll continue to do headline Ozfest tours there constantly. Even though they said they were done after that reunion tour they did, they decided, fuck it, we got some more to do. We ain't done yet.
Yeah, they had Incubus open for them, and that was followed by Pantera and then
Absolutely.
Sabbath.
Absolutely. And Pantera, as big as they were asked to be the opening act. They said, "Fuck yeah," because Sabbath was one of their biggest influences. Who cannot forget their cover of Planet Caravan on Far Beyond Driven? And of course, years later, in 2013, they would announce that they would record and release 13 that year without Bill Ward again. Some problems were developing with him with the contracts and everything else. So they get this one drummer named Brad something there, I don't know his last name, to do the whole shows there. And as they announced that this will be their final tour whatsoever. After this, the group would finally call it quits in 2017. That last concert was entitled "The Beginning of the End," and it would be released on DVD as now. Since that, Iommi has done some other work there. Bill Ward has done some art exhibitions. Geezer Butler's been doing others. I don't know what he's doing. I guess he's doing a project with I guess Matt Sorum and Steve Stevens with the Billy Idol guitars there. I forgot the name of the Deadland Beyond or something. I forgot the name of the group.
That name sounds familiar. Are you talking about the same Matt Storm who was a drummer for Guns N' Roses?
Correct. Yes.
Oh snap!
Yeah. Remember, this day and age, anybody could put together a super group. I mean, look at Chickenfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Joe Satriani, and Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Hey,
Yeah.
did you know Sammy Hagar and the Circle, they're doing a Texas tour, a Toast to Texas.
Oh, nice.
Four,
Hey.
4 or 5 dates, small clubs like
Oh, wow. Nice.
House of Blues in Houston,
Nice.
the Billy Bobs in Fort Worth, smaller
Nice.
venues.
That's where Prince Idol is at.
And I heard him on an interview. I heard him on the Eddie Trunk show
Nice.
a week ago, whenever it was his birthday. He was saying that he's going to be playing more Van Halen stuff in his catalog when he
Yeah,
in the Circle
in honor of
catalog.
Eddie. In honor of
Well,
Eddie.
Van Hagar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come again, Doug. You sound where again?
Fort Worth. You said he
Yeah.
lived there, right? Absolutely.
Yes,
There you
sir.
go. You could definitely check out Sammy Hagar's group, The Circle.
Billy Bob's.
The Billy Bobs. Nice. And
I
now,
can't wait to dive in deep on. I'm excited. I'm excited, Doc.
Yep.
Arknolia, I'm excited. Keith, YR, I'm excited for next Monday. I'm anticipating. I can't get out my system, but I know I'm excited.
I know you're going to be pumped up. That's for sure. There. And by the way, one of the closing
It's
things.
one of my favorite bands.
All right, there. On the closing note, I saw this on Twitter. There is a Black Sabbath bridge near Birmingham, England. There, and there's also a Black Sabbath bench that was just unveiled. If it's a steel bench and it has steel structures of the band original lineup there on top of the bench. In fact, let me see if I can find it there. And put it in the
What?
chat here. Let me
Oh, okay. Thought
wait a
you'd
couple
like it.
minutes here. Should be coming up pretty soon here.
If you don't mind, after you do that, if you don't mind me sharing,
Yeah.
true story why I like Hanoi Rocks. You'd be surprised on why this
Yeah,
band.
definitely. Yeah, definitely tell 'em about this. You know.
They got me through some rough times, Dr. L. Brown and
Yeah.
Arknolia and YR. It got me through some rough times when I was in middle school.
Right.
I was no perfect student. I'm not saying I was a rebel. I wasn't saying I was bad. I was saying I'm a loser. And I was in band. And when I was in band, I switched from playing the drums and to playing the saxophone. And everyone was like, "Oh, your saxophone is horrible." But I also wanted to be a rock star. And I couldn't find any rock star that played the saxophone until I looked up Michael Monroe, and I saw that he plays a awesome version of, like, he's one of a good saxophone player in my opinion.
All
And
right.
it just got me through some hard times. When I lost my girlfriend, one of their hit songs, "Don't You Ever Leave Me," that got me through. And the jail rock and roll kind of put me onto that rebel
All right.
side when I was getting into high school. So every song they released really got me through middle school and high school when I was a freshman. So Hanoi Rocks is a huge deal to my life. They got me through a lot of rough times in my life, and they still do.
All right. Definitely acknowledgement to that man there, because we don't really hear much of them nowadays, unfortunately. There. Apparently, all the diehards of Guns N' Roses and the glam punk rock, punk metal scene there. Definitely talk about them a lot there. All right.
As well
I'm
as
gonna-
before you close, as well as Billy Idol got me through some rough
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna put the image of this Black Sabbath, bench in the Skype chat here, where you see what I'm talking about here. This is again, as I mentioned, at the their hometown of Birmingham, England. It should be coming up there, and we know this again. He said, "Yep, it does this
I'm
here." A lot of
muted,
times you got to check to see if
but I'm
it's
going to have to unmute in a
safe
minute.
to download this photo here. But I'm not complaining about that. At least should be good there. Okay, should be coming up right now.
And Doc, not to put your business out there, not to be in your business, did you
Yeah,
find those vans you was looking for? Those vans?
Those bands, all the vans. Nah, I did check, and he didn't have any of my size, unfortunately.
Ladies and
So,
gentlemen, Dr. Brown is styling and profiling.
yeah, working on it there. Sadly, the problem is I wear size 13, and the Vans, the shoes I was looking for that I mentioned on the call earlier, they didn't have any, unfortunately, there. So that went out the door. But next time I should let them know if they still don't have them. I should definitely order some in a size 13 by chance.
You might have to do it online. That's what I did. Even though
Yeah,
it
I
might
know.
cost, it's better to do it online and have it shipped to you.
One of these days, I'm going to have to order me some heavy-ass gloves to do the milk and dairy at my workplace there, because the ones I got right now is starting to wear out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Maybe I need to get me some new pair of sneakers myself.
yeah, I know. So how's it going at your job, by the way? So the things picking up there? Are you chance you
Yes.
getting promoted to a new position?
I only work in the afternoons. Yeah.
Okay.
I work every Saturday and Sunday because I know
Oh.
YR doesn't really go live that much on Saturdays and our Sundays that much on
Okay.
morning mixes.
So you're basically doing part-time.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a
Hold on.
bagger. So,
Right.
it's not a big deal. Just being a guy who bags groceries.
Well, be the best. Be the best.
Did y'all mention Southern Cross song on Mob Rules yet?
Yeah, with the sign of the Southern Cross. We
Yes.
got to acknowledge that song. Another badass song.
Best
for that
song
album.
on Mob Rules.
Absolutely. A song
like-
based on the.
That's like their Stairway to Heaven kind of.
More heavier Stairway to Heaven when you think about there, because it's about this basically. Let me look it up, guys. I'll let you talk it out for a little bit.
Well,
What
the
Sabbath
album
means
also
to you
included
guys.
a short little instrumental called 5150
Mm-hmm.
that was
Not
Son.
5150. E5150, I think it was called.
Well, yeah, it was E5150.
That was before the song Mob Rules, and after a sign of the Southern Cross there.
Yeah.
Was that some type of Van Halen diss or something?
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with Van. It was a little instrumental, I guess.
Really short, but it's good.
Very, very
That shit,
short. It was
like,
all
honestly,
synthesized.
I would recommend, like, out of like, if I had to give you like 3 songs, besides the ones you hear on the radio, your Iron Man, your Paranoids, besides those, Heaven and Hell,
Mhm.
Sign of the Southern Cross, and either Die Young or what was the one on the Heaven and Hell, Brown? What was the one,
What
Brown, on Heaven
was
and
it?
Hell, the one song?
Neon Nights.
Neon Nights.
Yeah.
Wow. Probably those I would recommend. Like, go listen to them right now, for real. Heaven and Hell album. This isn't that whole album, fuck it. But
All right.
the Mob Rules album, the following album, there's a couple good songs, but the one song on there that's the best on there. Best song, Sign of the Southern Cross. It's the last song, right? It's the last
Yeah.
song on there?
No, that's Side of the Southern Cross. It's the third track on side 1 there.
Yeah,
Mob
but
Rule-
on a CD, what would it be? It wouldn't be the last one? You sure
No.
about that? Let me go look
I'm
at that
sure,
right
because
now. Let me go
I
look at my
had-
records. Let me look
I
at my
had-
records. Hold on.
All right. I had the Mob Rules album, man. Funny thing about that is that I showed my mom the cover, and I was like, "Oh, that's disgusting of it." And I saw the Uriah Heep, a Balamog album cover, and I said, "Well, what about that, Mom?" She was like, "You had to step about." She took about 5 steps back. I'm like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah, there's some album covers out there that the
Really took it to the next level.
yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, I want to say shout out to Arknolia Stroker Bean. I was telling Keith about this. I don't know if Keith remembers, but last week, I kid you not, this is a shout out to Dr. Arknolia. You guys are gonna love this. I fell asleep and I had a dream
Well,
that
hold on a minute. Listen, before you dive into that,
yeah, this is a good story.
Prince,
You're gonna love this.
Prince, give me your favorite Black Sabbath song before I forget. What is your number 1 favorite?
Well, I'm new to Black Sabbath as of today, so
Right.
I have to go back and listen to one of their songs, and maybe that will become my favorite because I'm just being put on to Black Sabbath. Being honest, I'm just putting on. I mean, they just put me on to Black Sabbath today.
All right. Well, I'm glad you came here because we're definitely teaching you some things there.
But I want to get into this story because this is going to make Arknolia smile. He delivered. I fell asleep and I had a waking dream that might be possible. That it was YR, Keith, me, and you, Dr.
Wait,
L.
hold on a
Brown.
minute. Forget about that real quick. Brown, what was your favorite Sabbath song? Number 1.
Oh yeah, it'd have to be a Lord of this world because
Oh yeah,
The pi-
you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
because the details of that person they're singing about is some sort of a greedy, self-centered, selfish, individual, whether it's a politician or a public figure, whereas the narrator of the song, the singer, is telling them, you think you're innocent, you have nothing to fear, but let me go by the last lyrics here, the last of the lyrics in the final verse. You think you're innocent, have nothing to fear. You don't know me, you say, but isn't it clear? You turn to me with all your worldly greed and pride, but will you turn to me when it's your turn to die?
Huh.
Great lyrics on that whole album, Master of Reality. Geezer wrote all the lyrics, by the way, because, as we know, Ozzy is dyslexic, by the way. All he did was just had to sing, that's about it.
Story
Hey,
time.
Dr. L. Brown, do you think these clubs that these bands played at in LA are still open, like the Whiskey A Go Go, the Troubadour? And do you think the Rainbow? Do you think these bands?
I do not know. The only one I hear of lately is basically, I think the Whiskey A Go Go is still around. Maybe so. I know the Rainbow Bar and Grill is still around there. I've never been to LA myself, and I don't really think I want to.
I really want to, go on tour on these famous clubs that these famous bands played at.
Who knows? Maybe find yourself some good musicians there, and then that may happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
All
tell me
right.
these clubs are all shut down, though. They're not around anymore. They're
Well,
old.
the one I remembered was Gazzari. So that was the one club, I guess, where Guns N' Roses started playing there back in the day. There, that shut down for some reason.
I mean,
But
it's
I
like
don't know.
we can't rejuvenate the classics anymore. We can't have anything from the past anymore. Everything is being taken down. Like,
I know, especially
never
some of the
mind history.
arenas, especially
Yeah.
some of the places or the concert venues and other places that are out there. Like, let me give, for example, back in Michigan, Clarkson, Michigan, the
Mhm.
Pine Knob Music Theater closed down and it was reopened as DTE Energy Music Theater.
Huh.
Here in Texas, Houston, we have the Toyota Center. We have, there was also Comerica Park in Detroit, named after Comerica Bank. Staples Center in Los Angeles, named after, of course, Staples, the office supply company.
I heard that the Alamo has been remodeled. I don't know if that's true, but I heard rumors that the Alamo has been remodeled.
The what? What's
The
going to be
Alamo.
remodeled? The
The Alamo.
Alamo?
Yeah, the
Not
Alamo.
Alamo Dome. I don't
Yeah.
think I've heard of that place there. That's in
They
here,
actually saw
Texas?
McCartney there.
Mm. Oh. I don't think I'd heard. Basically, that's a Texas venue, I guess. Because that's the
San
first time.
Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
San
I
Antonio.
heard
Nice.
it's been remodeled. I heard they try to remodel it.
I've never been there. I've never even let alone heard about it myself, so I would not
Well,
know.
it's kind of weird. McCartney was the first big concert there when they opened it, and when I
Ah.
drove there and saw it, because I'm driving down from this area, it looked like a giant dead cockroach. I mean, it had
Wow.
the spires coming up, and if you kind of looked at the distance, like that looks like a giant dead cockroach. Okay,
This venue?
yeah, it's really weird.
Holy cow, dude. It sounds like a monster movie. A monster movie from the 1960s there, or 50s.
That's
All right.
something I must do. I must go to LA and check out all these uh, famous bands. I mean, nightclubs that these bands perform at.
All right. Definitely, like I said, get yourself some good band members. Start jamming, and that will happen eventually there.
Yeah.
All right, there. So I guess this about closes our episode for tonight.
Yeah,
Now this coming Thursday, we're supposed to be looking at who? What's again?
Thursday, I think it's the Doors, wasn't it?
Yes, the Doors. Yes, we're
Doors on
looking at Doors. The
Monday.
Doors, and of course
Monday.
Monday Hanoi Rocks, as we mentioned there. And we got to get Falmouth Ken on the call for the Doors because he mentioned a few
Okay.
times that he likes the Doors there. Big Doors fan that he is.
And Tony, because Tony looks just like Jim Morrison.
Yeah, we got to get him on the call as well for this particular show there. Definitely. It'll be all of us. Definitely. All right. I guess that'll be it for tonight's episode of Arknolia and the Doctor. All right. So definitely find whatever Sabbath albums you have and crank that shit up loud so the neighbors and their neighbors